Got to start a little early, scheduled for 11:30. Didn't know what time I'd be ready to go, but it's late night. I've been working all day. Just finished my 2-hour live show on Court TV. I'm home. All this news broke during my program, so I figured I'd do a stream tonight to talk about this big news in the biggest case in the true crime community. And it's a trial that you will see on Court TV. It is a trial that a story we've been covering since the beginning. So I don't know how many folks will be up tonight. Might not be many. It was scheduled for 11:30. I'm starting a little early. We'll see who is still awake and still out there tonight. Thanks so much, everyone, for coming into the room tonight. It's not going to be as long as usual. So I do have to sleep at some point because tomorrow, wake up and do it all again and again and again. So I did a podcast earlier today. I did my show. We're working on season 2 of Accomplice to Murder. Was working on that today. So there's still a lot going on, but checking in to see who's here. And I see a lot of people. Oh, yeah, the West Coast. It's not as late on the West Coast, by the way. But thank you, everyone, for being here, checking in. And if you're watching on a replay somewhere, thank you for joining us if you're watching in the morning. But we're doing this late at night, live, coast to coast and around the world for the entire true crime community. This is the biggest case. The murder of these 4 awesome kids. I call them kids. They were young adults. But I call them kids. They were living their lives, doing what they should be doing, going to school, making friends, enjoying themselves. And it was a monster. It was a monster attack. We all know who the accused monster is. I will show his picture a little bit just so folks remember. And this is where it all happened, right? It happened inside this house. Should have been a fun night. Should have been a fun night. Should have been a fun day. Should have been a fun life for all 4 of them. But somebody took it. So this is it. I've got it in my hands, the papers that were filed. This is what we're going to be talking about right here, the alibi. Now they mentioned the alibi before, but the judge wanted more details. You don't just willy-nilly say you've got an alibi. Like, what is the alibi? Like, where were you? Yeah, it's about justice. So I'm going to read it. Let me read it. I'll probably read it a couple times because people are coming in at different times. But let me start with this new information, which was just filed and obtained tonight. Happened in the middle of my show on Court TV. Some of you may have read it already, but let's go through it and then let's pick apart what it means. And I'm not going to say his name. I'll refer to him as the accused killer. Comes now the accused killer by and through his attorney of record. He has a good attorney, by the way. Ann Taylor, public defender, hereby files a supplemental response to the demand for alibi and in compliance with Idaho Code 19519, Idaho Criminal Rule 12.1. I see a bunch of people jumping in now. Yeah, I scheduled it for 11:30. I just started early because I don't know how long I can stay awake tonight. The accused killer moved to Pullman, Washington in June of 2022. As an avid runner and hiker, he explored many areas of the Palouse. I don't know what that is. I guess it's an area. Of note, he explored Wawai. I can't believe late at night they're giving me these words, right? I'm sure a lot of folks watching know how to pronounce all these words. Wah Park in July of 2022, and this became a favorite location. Wah Park. After the school year began, the accused killer was busy with classes and work at Washington State University, and his running and hiking decreased but did not stop. Instead, his nighttime drives increased. This is supported by data from the accused killer's phone showing him in the countryside late at night and or in the early morning hours on several occasions. Creepy guy. The phone data includes numerous photographs taken on several different late evenings and early mornings, including in November, depicting the night sky. So the picture he's painting right now, before I get to more of this, that the picture that the defendant is painting here is that he often took these late night drives by himself. This wasn't the first time. He had done it before. We've got the cell phone data to prove it. We've got the photos to prove it, that he was creeping around late at night taking these drives. Okay. The accused killer, again, he uses his name in his papers. I don't. The accused killer was out driving in the early morning hours of November 13th, 2022, as he often did, to hike and run and or see the moon and stars. He drove throughout the area south of Pullman, Washington, west of Moscow, Idaho, including Wah Park. They call this part partial corroboration. The accused killer intends to offer testimony of Cy Ray, CSLI expert. This is interesting. The alibi is him by himself, so he doesn't have an alibi witness. His alibi witness is an expert who's going to look at some digital information. What does that tell you, ladies and gentlemen? This man does not intend to testify. A man whose alibi is I was by myself, it looks like from this, will not take the stand to vouch for his own whereabouts at the time of the crime. His only alibi witness is himself. His only alibi eyewitness is himself, but his alibi witness will in fact be Cy Ray, a CSLI expert, cell tower, cell phone, and other radio frequency. The curricula vitae is attached. Yes, it is attached. The CV of Cy Ray. Cy Ray's CV is right here. And it's impressive. He's the president and executive of the Burning Mountain Productions, doing business as the Socialite Crime Club. Look that up. That's in Arizona. He's the president of the Socialite Crime Club. What on earth is that? I'm sure the internet already knows. LexisNexis Special Services Director, Washington, D.C. ZX Inc. President, Founder, Chandler, Arizona. Gilbert Police Department, Sergeant Officer SWAT, 1999 to 2014. So he won't be a witness in Lori Daybell's trial. He was already gone. Phoenix Training Council, owner trainer, 2006-2013. Sholo Police Department in Sholo, Arizona, 96 to 99. Military, professional resources, trainer, mentor, Afghanistan. Arlington, Virginia, 2010. 20 years of law enforcement, 10 years expert witness case. That's ZX. Okay. Over 1,000 death investigations, including gang-related homicides, murder by organized crime syndicates and cartels, investigations of officer use of force, complex case designation. He's got real background. Real background in the world of, I wonder what the socialite crime club is. I know someone's looking it up. All right, we hit 11:31. A lot of people checking in, a lot more than I thought. Getting close to 1,000 already. Live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, obviously, Twitch, and X. Soon on TikTok. So I'm talking about the big news that broke tonight during my show on Court TV. Talked about it there, getting into more details tonight on this live stream. This is the notice of defendant's supplemental response to state's alibi demand. Okay, so more details about his alibi. And what we've gotten to so far is that he likes to drive at night by himself. He's an avid runner. And was looking at the moon and stars, perhaps. Now, we're at the important part of the filing. Partial corroboration. The accused killer intends to offer testimony of Cy Ray, the expert. Talked about him to show that the accused killer's mobile device was south of Pullman, Washington, and west of Moscow, Idaho on November 13th, 2022. And the accused killer's mobile device did not travel east on the Moscow-Pullman highway in the early morning hours of November 13th, and thus could not be the vehicle captured on video along the Moscow-Pullman highway near Floyd's cannabis shop. So now we know there's video near Floyd's cannabis shop that exists. Additional information as to the accused killer whereabouts on the early morning hours progressed, including additional analysis by Mr. Ray, will be provided once the state provides discovery requested, and now subject to an upcoming motion to compel. If not disclosed, Mr. Ray's testimony will also reveal that critical exculpatory evidence further corroborating the accused alibi was either not preserved or has been withheld. All right, so here's where we go. Here's where we're going. They're going to say the exculpatory evidence was not preserved or was withheld. Seems like that may be the explanation for the most important time of this whole trip, which is when he turned his phone off or put it into airplane mode so he couldn't be tracked. At the time his phone is no longer communicating, there's this window of time. So this expert's going to take the time before and the time after and extrapolate from there where he was going or where he would have been. But it would have been so much easier to have this electronic alibi if you kept your phone on. But it looks like what they're going to argue through this expert is that there's data that they should have extracted, that they didn't, that they should have preserved, which they didn't, which would have told us exactly where he was during that time. That's where this defense is going. I like to understand the defense first because we kind of know the prosecution case. Kind of know it from the affidavit and everything else. We don't really know what the defense is, but now we're getting the pieces of it. I'm driving around looking at the moon and the stars, and I'm south of Pullman, Washington, and I'm west of Moscow. And we know that his phone is on in parts of the drive. It makes you wonder, did he plan this all along? Like plan that there is going to be some expert that's going to come in and say the most important part is the stuff you don't have or the stuff that you got rid of. I'm not buying that argument, but it looks like where they're going to go. It's an expert alibi witness. I don't know if I've seen this before. I may have, but I don't know. Over 1,100 folks watching. I can't believe this. So let me just circle back just for a moment. Because this is what I like to do. And I've been doing it in the Scott Peterson case and other cases. So according to this defense theory, right, it was a different car that was on that video. So now we've got two white Elantras driving around at night. Two of them. And it was the second one where the killer was. So I'm wondering, did the killer get a white Elantra because all along the plan was to frame this guy? Because the killer in the second white Elantra, not the man who's been accused, but the real culprit in the second Elantra, probably staked out or followed him and waited for him to like drop a can of soda or something so he could extract his DNA off of that discarded item and place it on a knife sheath. So on the button on the knife sheath, so the frame job would be like perfect. I'll commit the perfect crime because I will frame someone else for it. Someone who's kind of creepy with really deep, dark eyes. I'll get his DNA. I'll put it on the knife sheath. I'll leave that at the scene so they have a clue. And then they'll see my car, which is just like his car, because I know he drives a white Elantra, so I'm going to get a white Elantra. And so they're going to be looking for a white Elantra. I know he has one. And I know he's the type of guy who drives around at night looking up at the stars because I've stalked him before. And I'm not going to use any phone. So there won't be any other cell signal in the area that night. I'm going to be stealth. Oh, and you know what I'm going to do? I am not going to cut my eyebrows for like 20 years to make sure they're nice and bushy. Just like his bushy eyebrows. It's the perfect cover for the perfect crime. It's absurd. Two white Elantras? Where'd the DNA come from? That's why circumstantial cases, ladies and gentlemen, are better than direct evidence. If you just have direct evidence and I just have a witness who sees something, that's direct evidence. And that's all the evidence I have in the case. All they have to do is discredit that eyewitness. And the case falls apart. But when you have circumstantial evidence, you have different pieces that you're putting together that alone could be potentially attacked or discredited, which is what they're attempting to do here with the cell phone and the video, trying to discredit it because of this so-called digital alibi. But there's still the DNA. And when you have to come up with all these scenarios to discredit each piece of circumstantial evidence separately, it becomes a much more difficult sell to a jury. Because there's got to be a story for that, for the DNA too. This is the story for the videos. And then this is going to be the story for his cell phone data. And for his cell phone being turned off, wasn't turned off, they messed it up. They messed it up. Investigators didn't give us the exculpatory evidence, okay? They're saying there's evidence that shows that he's innocent. Not that they can't prove it. That shows that exculpatory is the most powerful piece of evidence. That's why if a prosecutor has anything that is or could be deemed potentially exculpatory, you must give it to the defense. That's a major violation. And that's what they're setting this up for. That's exculpatory is something that proves innocence, not raises a reasonable doubt. It proves innocence. It's a magical word. That's why there's so much of a burden put on a prosecutor when you're gathering evidence. You've got to give everything to defense, especially the exculpatory stuff. If you don't, judge could just outright dismiss the case, and you get in a lot of trouble. If you do it purposely, if you purposely withhold exculpatory evidence, they can take your law license for that. So, alibi by expert witness. I'm not buying it. Right? That's a tough. I'll listen to it, and you know, he's qualified. Cy Ray, you know, I'm sure he's qualified, knows what he's talking about. But I don't know. Because the whole point and what we've heard is that he turned the phone off during the most important times. Stella, how are you sure he's guilty? Well, it's the DNA. It's the DNA on the sheath at the scene. That's got to be explained. You know, the only explanation in cases like that often is planted evidence. All right, Moscow's in on the conspiracy. Show me some evidence of that. They didn't know this guy. They didn't know this guy from Adam. They didn't get to know this guy from Adam. Like he's not necessarily on anyone's radar. It's great police work where they tracked him down. Coordination. Yeah, Michael Proctor planted the DNA while driving the Elantra with Colonel Mustard. Exactly. Every case has a defense, and it's going to be fought. Good attorneys, they'll make it convincing. Who the heck is awake tonight? Melly is here. Melly doesn't sleep either. This is amazing. Thank you, Melly. I'm shocked that the folks, I do this like in the morning and they're awake tonight. This is crazy. I just did it now because it happened during my show on Court TV. I know some of you were watching, some of you weren't watching, and we did it. We didn't have a ton of time to go through all of it and really kind of pick it apart here. which is what I'm doing now. I wanted to make sure you had the information because I'm sure everyone's going to be talking about it. You may even have the document in front of you because I know the way you people are. You people are on top of it. Michelle, he was looking up at the stars. That's the alibi. I was going star chasing, stargazing. The stargazing defense. It's unbelievable. And the white Elantras are just everywhere. The white Elantras are everywhere because they're conceding that there's a car on this video. Wow. Yeah, the part that really caught my eye, because this is the real hook. Like everything else, we sort of knew, right? We sort of knew. Now we know they're going to use an expert. But the hook and what we really have to pay attention to, the important part that's going to be the legal battle in this case, is the last paragraph. Additional information as to the accused killer's whereabouts as the early morning hours progressed, including additional analysis by Mr. Ray, will be provided once the state provides discovery requested and now subject to an upcoming motion to compel. So they're saying, you've got stuff that you haven't given us that our expert needs because we know our guy is innocent. If not disclosed, Mr. Ray's testimony will also reveal that critical exculpatory evidence further corroborating the accused killer's alibi was either not preserved or has been withheld. So they're waiting for the additional discovery, the things that they're looking for, which I'm sure are relevant to the time that everything is happening. But the prosecution said, we don't have that. We don't have that data. We have cell phone data, then that stops. Then we pick up with the video data, and then the cell phone data picks up later. It's like a donut, right? Cell phone data to video because the cell phone is no longer communicating, then back to cell phone data. And they do have cell phone data that is corroborated by video. So they were able to match two of them together as well from the papers. So they've done their job, investigators. I mean, I think most of us who were looking at this at first were, are they getting the help? Can they? Nothing like this has really ever happened here before. This is a very complicated case. And oh, yeah, they were on top of it. They reached out for help if they needed it. They coordinated it. Thoroughly impressed by investigators in this case. Let's see what Crystal had. Oh, what do we say? Oh, here we go. Danielle. We're on Danielle. Would you say it's a strong probable cause in this case? I would say it's beyond probable cause. I would say unless there's something we don't know about relative to this DNA. To me, the DNA to me is the circumstance of the circumstantial evidence that puts it beyond any and all reasonable doubt. Like the cell phone data is great, is amazing, corroborating. The video, awesome. But the DNA, without the DNA, this is a tough case because you have there's like was it Uber Eats or one of those food delivery services that's there that night. There's people in the house. There's a lot of moving parts there. But the DNA takes it beyond probable cause. Beyond probable cause. That gets me beyond any and all reasonable doubt. Now, obviously, I have to hear all the evidence in context. I want to hear the cross-examination. I want to hear everything that went on here. It could be unknown forces connected to this DNA that was found. But my gut tells me no. Crystal, thank you, Crystal. Thank you for being awake. This is awesome. Michelle, fancy resumes cost big money for taxpayers. Yeah. Well, this is the system that we live in. I will tell you this, that it's not a bottomless pit, but for a case like this with the ultimate penalty and everything else involved, the defense is given access to reasonable amounts of funds. Now, I never look at that. I never look at the money for either side. And I don't like people, and it's usually defense attorneys say, you're wasting the taxpayers' money by even bringing this case. And I'm like, no, the taxpayers want to pay for this stuff. Like we pay for safety. We pay for justice. That's like the government's job. That's like job number one. Keep us safe, law enforcement. And when you catch criminals, please prosecute them. Oh, it's going to cost. Well, yeah, well, we got to, yeah, that's what we pay for. That's what we pay for. And the taxpayers, yeah, it gets expensive. These cases get expensive outside. Prosecution's going to need experts too. It'll add up. If they keep the case and they don't move it to another jurisdiction, it becomes not quite as expensive. It becomes really expensive when you move jurisdictions, because then you've got to pay for all the witnesses, court personnel, and the judge, because everybody goes, right? The judge brings his staff with him. You might be able to use security from the jurisdiction you're going to, but they may make you pay for it. There's all these prices when you change venue that make it very expensive. That's probably the biggest cost in this case if it gets moved. Thank you, Michelle. K.A. Pisces tonight. Neighbor who ran with him 2 times. Are you saying that this expert ran with him? I think he's from Arizona. Maybe plus. Like you're going to have someone who's going to testify about him running prior times with people. That would be, yeah. That's not necessarily the alibi witness, but that would be someone to corroborate that, oh yeah, he's run there before. Now, again, that's a witness that you would call because they don't want to put him on the stand. So to do the alibi, if you're by yourself, the expert, to establish that he's running, if he's running with a neighbor, then that neighbor is going to be subpoenaed and they'll have to testify truthfully about running with him. Thank you, K.A. Great point. Danielle, I can't wait to watch your John Bonet podcast, The Ransom Note. Yeah. That case, if ever was brought to trial, that's one of the very few older cases that still captures the attention of folks in the true crime community to the level of the newer cases. Like a lot of times, some of these older cases, something happens, people are like, meh, been there, done that. Not so much with John Bonet. By the way, a little fun fact here, Court TV fun fact. The John Bonet, when that John Mark Carr character was brought over to the United States and appeared in court for the first time, that at that moment was the highest rated moment in the history of Court TV. The biggest audience Court TV ever had was when John Mark Carr was brought into court for the first. It wasn't a trial. It was just like his first appearance, in court. Through the roof numbers, millions and millions of viewers. Subsequently, we did better with the Casey Anthony trial in terms of the number of people watching. I remember my show during Casey Anthony, I was beating Fox News, and no one beats Fox News. I was beating Fox News. Thank you, Danielle. Appreciate it. Hat. Again, I don't know if it's Ray Hat or Raw Hat, Dana, but thank you. And the reason I'm wearing the hat tonight, if you're wondering, if you watched my show, you would know. All right, here's Tommy Bernard from the Tommy Bernard podcast. Okay. Did he do a 2:27 a.m. search? DA couldn't find it. Cy has a new version of self. Here we go. Nice job, Tommy. It's all one case. We're just covering one big trial. There's one big true crime story that we cover, and these are all just different pieces of it. Interesting. Yeah, we'll see how far they go with this. But to me, Tommy, the big difference is that DNA. You want to attack this digital thing. Expert says this, expert says that. They're going to need an expert to say that that's not his DNA. That's what they need. Like, does that expert exist? I don't know. Because remember, when an expert testifies, you can't just say anything, and you could tell when an expert is trying to hedge and wiggle their way to remain credible, right? And you'll see this. Like, they'll say things in a certain way so it can't be used against them subsequently, right? So you don't want to say something that you absolutely, as an expert, know that's just not true, because it will be used against you in the future. And let me tell you how this works and what's happening. It's another case. The Trump case, the Trump Fani Willis case down in Atlanta. Remember, they were talking about phone records where Fani was with her lover. And they used cell phone data. And in that case, it's still being litigated, by the way, some of that. In that case, the prosecutor is attacking the validity of that cell phone data. And it's the same programs and data they use in cases that they prosecute. And now all the defense attorneys down here where I live in Atlanta are getting ready in their cases where the prosecution's attempting to use that same program and data that was used against Fani Willis to use it against the prosecution, because Fani Willis and her lover are trying to undermine the credibility and attack the credibility or veracity of that data that they use day in and day out to prosecute people for like serious cases, like really serious cases. So that's a problem. So that's why I say that, because when you watch, and I've watched so many of them through the years, like when there's experts, there's one on each side. And one expert is really like usually spot on, and the other is around the edges and is looking for little places to pick things apart. But they can't go all in, because the next time they testify, that transcript will be used against them. An expert's career can be completely destroyed in one case if they say something that's so ridiculously and obviously wrong about the area they are supposed to be an expert in. That transcript will be used against them. I've seen it done. I've seen experts destroyed on the witness stand because of what they said in another case, when they didn't hedge enough, and they crossed the line, and they said something that they shouldn't have because it really wasn't true and not accepted in their field, and then it was thrown in their face the next time they were called as an expert. Kills careers. So we'll see, Tommy. We'll see. We'll try to keep an eye on whether there are any parallels. And of course, Tommy's referencing the Karen Reed case out of Massachusetts, where they have a jury now. Monday, opening statements in that one. All right, Bogey, Green Street. Thank you, Bogey. Great to have you aboard tonight. Melly, this is ludicrous. Agree, science is most reliable. Yeah, here's the problem. Like, science, reliable. Experts find an angle. They find an angle. Well, but what about this little thing over here? And if the expert is over here, that's the one that you should not listen to. Look at this. Jen loves late night. Thank you, Jen. See, my schedule is I do a live television show 8 to 10 every night. And that's the end of my day. And I've been working all day. If I have time to stream, I'll usually do it midday, once in a while, late afternoon. But usually by this time, I'm asleep, like done. I come home, take a shower, pillow, try to watch. Can't watch anything. I'm out. But tonight, I needed to do this. This is a huge development in the biggest case that we're covering. All right, we've got our Navy vet for the broken. The idiot thinks he's so smart, thinks he committed the perfect crime. Oops, left a little something behind. Yes. Yeah. And to me, that's the adrenaline. And I have an image in my mind. It may change after the trial, but I have this guy. He's just so juiced up at this moment that he's been thinking about it. And now I'm actually doing it. That, fumble fingers or whatever. And you make a mistake. You make a mistake. And I'm telling you, they still would have tracked him, and they probably would have arrested him based on cell phone, based on car video, etc. They may have, but it would have been a very difficult case. It's still not. There are no slam dunks. Not when there's this much at stake. Not when you have lawyers that are this good, right? They're going to fight it. We're watching it here. They're going to fight it. The DNA makes a big difference, but they're going to attack the DNA. Trust me. They've got something else on the DNA. They're not like conceding anything. Nothing will be conceded in this case. Deanna, are you coming up to Dedham, Mass for any of the character? It's not locked in yet because we've got a lot of moving parts right now. So there's things happening. How many people do we have in the field? How many do we have here? I've got a little bit of travel coming up for season 2 of my other show, Accomplice to Murder, that I'm filming in different cities around the country. So and now that we finally have the schedule, we know it's going to start on Monday. I mean, earlier this week, they were saying it was going to take 2 or 3 weeks. So we didn't plan anything yet. But my hopes are to come up to Dedham. I've been there before for another trial. Dirk Greinader, the Harvard doctor. I got it, but I said 2 of them. Is it Rahat, or Ray Hat? I'm going to go with Rahat. I think. Thank you so much. As soon as I'm going to go back. Number 1 is Ray Hat. Number 2 is Rahat. Rahat is number 2. Number 1 is Ray Hat. 1 or 2. That's all I need to know. I'll check the comments after the show. Thank you. By the way, over 1,700. Like, where are these people? Does anyone go to sleep? It's after midnight. Do you know where your children are? It's late. I think I'm going to go outside. I'm just going to take a look at the stars. I'll be right back. No. Wow. But this is huge information here, folks. Huge information tonight from the defense. It is an alibi. The alibi witness will not be an eyewitness. It will be an expert witness examining the cell phone data of the accused killer. And again, the big takeaway, okay? This is the big point. I don't want you to miss this. I'm going to say it one more time. The big point is what is written at the end. That they say their expert will give further information once we get the discovery from the prosecution. And if we don't get what we're looking for, we are going to say that this is either information that's being withheld or it's information, evidence that was not preserved. and it's exculpatory. This is going to be the big battle before this trial. That's it right there. Unless they pick another fight on the DNA, which they might. But right now, this is the big battle. They are claiming that their expert knows that there's exculpatory evidence that has not been provided to the defense. This is the fight. This is the fight. Know that. That's the fight. There will be further litigation and arguments and motions and papers connected to that. Because we've heard them talk about exculpatory evidence before, but we didn't know what they were talking about. I guess it's this, based upon this man's testimony. Cy Ray. He's the expert. He's the key to their case right now. But they need another key for the DNA. Thank you again. Rahat. All right. Jojo Fo Shosho. What was the weather that night? I'm sure you guys have been checking the weather. Was it stargazing weather? Gonna look that up tomorrow night on my show. You betcha. I gotta write this down. I always take notes during these streams. The questions you have, I'll answer on my show if I don't have the answer in front of me now. And this one I do not. The weather for stargazing. Thank you, Jojo. Faux show. KA. Why in this random place is stated? Smoke shop. Floyd's cannabis shop is mentioned because apparently this is where the video is. The video, one of the videos, because there's more than one video. One of the videos of the car on this particular road, the Moscow Pullman Highway, is near Floyd's cannabis shop. Maybe Floyd's cannabis shop is the one that had the camera. I don't know. But that's how they're referencing it, because they're saying that he never, ever, ever, ever went on that road to go to Moscow. He stayed west of Moscow, south of Pullman. And he was there at some point because the cell phone data said that. And you have to look at it, did he do this huge circle or did he just go down and back and forth? He's going to say he's going back and forth, I guess. Austin Crime Daily. That is a question. Where is Sebastian? I don't know. And this is one where you could say it is possible that no one knows if you wandered off and ended up somewhere. But something happened in that house. Something happened in his life. Something made him leave, either on his own. Something was happening that I need to get out of here. He was lured out of that home, or something was done to him. But we don't know tonight. We need to get the answer to that one. Float in the river. For your information, second Elantra man framed BK from DNA on discarded pizza crust. That's right. It is just one story that we're covering. Because pizza crust, man, was in court today. It's one story and it's all connected. It's like Kevin Bacon. It's all like this. And it was probably Pizza Rat. It was probably Pizza Rat who told police. Pizza Rat ratted. And that's how they got the DNA. Think about trying to solve these crimes before DNA. I don't know how they solved anything. I don't know how they solved anything. I really don't. Is late night Vinny different? I like late night Vinny. Melly, thank you. Is late night Vinny different is the question. I have covered this, Danielle, not here on the stream. I'd love to see, and I have to remember to read these out loud for the people who are just listening, especially late at night. Should I talk like this late at night? I would love to see you cover Lisk, Long Island. I've covered that case in depth on my TV show. Some interesting stuff from the beginning, but yeah, well, absolutely, we'll do one. I'll probably do it on the tangent with Alan Jonesy, because they actually have some information on that one. But that's a great idea. Thank you, Danielle. We will do that. We will do. Let me write. I take notes. We'll do that on the tangent. But he was back in court today. He's also talking about Brady material, which is the same as exculpatory material. Long Island serial killer is going to point the finger at the fired police chief, the indicted police chief. That's going to be a fascinating development there, because that guy was up to some weird stuff too. The investigator. All right. If you're just joining us, folks, over 1,700. I'm shocked. I thought we'd have a few hundred people here late at night, maybe a couple people from overseas. I don't know. Waking up in the morning. I don't know what time it is in Australia, but got a lot of comments. Okay. What exactly is exculpatory? Exculpatory. That means this is evidence that shows innocence. Give you an example. The Innocence Project, right? The Innocence Project was born out of DNA. So in a case that involves, let's say it was some sort of sexual assault and a death involved, and the DNA was left behind of the killer, or someone bit the victim, right? And there's DNA left behind. Well, when the Innocence Project came to town, people who were convicted before DNA was a thing said, let's go back and look at some of that evidence, whether it was a blood stain or other things, and let's identify the DNA from the crime scene, and let's see if it matches the man or woman who's been convicted. And if it doesn't match, it shows that he's not the killer. This is the killer's DNA, and it doesn't match the man who was prosecuted. That's exculpatory evidence, something that proves your innocence, and it could prove someone else's guilt. So whoever's DNA that was the guilty person. That's the person who committed this crime, and it doesn't match me. So it's exculpatory for me, but it proves that someone else did it. And if it proves someone else did it, it proves that I didn't do it. Factually innocent. That's what exculpatory is. Thank you, Debbie, for watching tonight. Here we go. It's early in Denmark with our Danish girl. What do they have for breakfast in Denmark? Do they eat Danish? Just thinking out loud. I think it's still up in the air. Which trial are you talking about, Edie? Which trial? Are you talking about this trial for this case? I think I do believe people like my Danish's joke. I do believe that we have a very good chance. And again, it's the discretion of the judge. But my understanding is what judge wants to do is use the courtroom cameras without any zoom-ins. He's afraid of close-ups, just the courtroom camera as is, and let it roll, kind of like they've been doing in some of the pre-trials. But we'll see. Callie's awake also. If the Danish do not eat Danishes, I would be very disappointed. Oh, here we go. Joanne W., will you check out the Kansas mom's case? Yeah, we did one stream on that so far with the tangent. That's when I bring in Jonesy and Al. We did one on it. We'll absolutely do more, but that's the one that you won't see. That one you won't see. That trial you will. Maybe that's what you're talking about. That one you won't see because there are no cameras in Oklahoma. If it was in Kansas, you'd have a chance. Oklahoma, the law is no cameras. We've got an answer from Danish girl. They don't eat Danish a lot. Oh. There we go. Oh, Deanna loved the pink tank the other night. Yeah, so each night on my television show, in the second hour, I bring in my legal experts. I call them the think tank. But last Friday, everybody showed up wearing pink. So we changed them to the pink tank for a night. All right. Yeah, disappointing. I think you're talking about the news that oh no. What did I start here? Disappointing that that's not going to be on camera. The one in Oklahoma with the moms. What a horrible case that is. If the French don't eat French toast, I'm disappointed. Here we go. Oh my goodness. We are officially off the tracks. Everybody's loopy tonight. The weather was cold and snowy. Ooh. If it's snowy, cold, all right, cold, or like a crisp night, you can still see it, right? And usually it's when it's clear out, it's usually colder, right? Because the clouds sometimes, if there's any heat during the day, it'll hold it in. But if it's snowy, now I'm not a weatherman. I did do the weather once on one newscast once, but snow comes out of clouds. And if it's a snowy night, you're not going to see the stars. That's a problem. Thank you, Angel. Uh-oh, Patricia does not agree. There was no snow on the ground. The park closed at dark, locked until 7 a.m. I'm writing this all down, by the way. Park is closed. That makes sense because they're referencing he likes to go to it had a funny name. What was it? Wah Wah Why Park. Wah Wah Why Park. Yeah, a lot of public parks do close after dark for obvious reasons. Do they have a gate? Some parks will say you're not allowed to be in here after dark, but they don't necessarily have gates. That's an interesting issue. Austin Crime Daily asking about the Riley strain. Yeah, did something happen? Could someone else be involved? Could someone have caused it? Could something have been laced? I think that's always a possibility. Pants and boots ripped. I think that's very possible that the pants and boots are ripped off by the current. If someone is under the influence of something, I think clothes can be taken off. If you took something or something was laced and your body temperature is heating up, regardless of what the actual weather is, someone could be like taking their clothes off. That's why you often see people who are tripping or mentally ill or strung out on something might not be dressed appropriately or acting appropriately. So I think once a mind altering substance or drug or something is introduced to the body, I think it opens up possibilities of the person doing things that they wouldn't normally do of sound mind and body. That's what's going to make this one very, very complicated. But I think the family will continue digging and pushing to get more information. And that was another sad, sad story. That one was. But they did find him. So there's some sense of, okay, we know where he died and where he ended up. But do we know everything that happened? And I think that's what every family wants to find out. So I think that's what's going on there. Are you kidding me? I said I wasn't going to go as long, and here we go. It's been an hour. I did an hour already. I think I got to go to sleep. I think I got to go to sleep. I think I have to go to sleep. I'll just scan for a few more comments here. Okay, Sonny is beyond a reasonable doubter, is a factually innocent. Only 20 skin cells to prove guilt in a 4-person mad murder. Alibi equals single man needs discovery. Electronic alibi to prove innocence. All right, so they're gonna attack the level of DNA that they got, right? That's what it's going to be. That's where we're going. I mean, yes, you can have an expert come in and say, well, this isn't a large enough sample or really enough. But it is. But it is. We'll see. We'll see. They're going to attack. They're going to attack. 2 white Elantras also. 2. Oh, here we go. I needed this. Thank you. Wawai Park. It's just Wawai? It's spelled W-A-W-A, which if you're from New Jersey is Wawa, because that's the convenience store that we go to. We go to a Wawa. And W-A-I. So it's Wawa, but it's just Wawai. Thank you, Joanne. I got to write that down. Wawai. Good phonetics on there, too. So the second, so Wawa is pronounced Wa. That's interesting. You know, down south where I live now, I'm originally from New Jersey, but I live down south. You usually add an extra syllable to words. Y'all are eliminating a syllable in Wawai Park. It's Wawai. Have you ever been to a Wawa? All right. Great information. Great information. Okay. Question. Are there any cameras at Wawai Park that shows the Elantra? Good question. You know, is there any video? Now, would the video still exist? Would the video still exist at the time that he gets charged and his lawyers are on the case? Because prosecutors would not be looking for video in that area necessarily, right? Because that would be irrelevant. Why would they search for video there? So if he's saying he's in another place, are there cameras anywhere? And if there are cameras, I think it would be incumbent upon his defense team to find that video if he's factually innocent and telling the truth to them. Because it's not up to the defense to prove your case. If you have information, you got to give it, but you're not obliged to go find it. That's absurd. But that's interesting. If there's cameras at Wowai Park, I'm saying it right. Yeah, it's been a quick hour tonight, folks. Like over an hour. Started a little bit before 11:30, but I'll take it to 12:30. We got up to 2,000 across all platforms tonight, by the way. Yeah, Debbie's got the idea. Going to sleep. Everybody say good night. Debbie. Heading for Wawai Landing on the Snake River. This is where the WSU women's rowing crew puts their racing sculls in the water. Ah, interesting. Good night, everyone. Good night. So thank you, everyone, for joining tonight. It was great to see folks. Some of the daytime folks showed up. I think a few new folks caught the live. But I really thought I was going to be here almost by myself. But Tracy was here too. Thank you, Tracy. Grazie. Yeah, we did it. We did a late night. Navy vet, I watch crime stories all the time. Most have happened in the 70s, 80s before DNA, but kept samples. Cold case later solved. Yeah, it works both ways. It works both ways. It works for the Innocence Project sometimes, but it works in solving those cold cases. DNA, biggest game changer in my lifetime, obviously. Before that, we were talking about fingerprints. Fingerprints we were talking about. So, but what's interesting, there is one scenario where I believe a fingerprint will be better than DNA. Identical twins. You don't know which one did it. They left some DNA behind, but it could be twin one, identical twin one, or identical twin two, because I believe identical twins have the same DNA, don't they? But they don't have the same fingerprint, because no two fingerprints are exactly the same. And by the way, whose thumbprint is that on the Court TV logo? I wonder. Anyway, folks, thanks again so much for watching. Thank you for all your support on the live stream. We've been going over a month now here on YouTube, and it's been gangbusters. It's been absolute gangbusters. We'll soon be live streaming on TikTok, so we'll pick up some new folks on TikTok, but we're on Facebook, X, YouTube, and Twitch. I think I have over 50 followers on Twitch. Twitch is the toughest place in the world to break into. It's tough over there. All those kids are just playing games. But I think YouTube is really the home for true crime these days, for true crime live streaming. Facebook just doesn't support it. The algorithm doesn't support it. Million followers and the notifications just don't go out. It's unreal. YouTube, not perfect, but really much better, treating the true crime live streaming community much better. But thank you very much. You can watch me every night from 8 to 10 on Court TV. Obviously, I stream here at random times, often in the middle of the day, sometimes late afternoon, and once in a while, late night. Maybe what we'll do is, if we go late night, I got to wear the hat. got to wear the hat for the late night. It'll make it a little bit more special for us. But thank you for watching. Have a great night. Get some sleep. For those of you in the States, those of you overseas, have a great day. And don't forget to hug the kids.